The sleek glass walls of the conference room reflected the morning sun, casting sharp lines across the polished table. Laptops clicked open, pens tapped against notepads, and the low hum of corporate chatter filled the air. At the head of the table sat Mr. Thompson, the division manager, confident, impatient, always in control. Daniel Robinson, a black project analyst in his early 30s, sat near the middle of the table with a folder of notes and slides he had worked on for weeks. His heart raced, but his voice was steady as he leaned forward. "I'd like to present a proposal that could increase efficiency and cut costs by nearly 20%. It's a system redesign I've been modeling." Before he could finish, Mr. Thompson held up a hand. "Not now, Daniel. We've got bigger priorities." Daniel hesitated, his voice firmer. "Sir, if you'll allow me just 5 minutes, I can show you how this could." The manager let out a dry laugh and turned to the others. 5 minutes? We don't need to waste 5 seconds. Let's move on to real business." A few people around the table exchanged awkward glances. One young colleague opened his mouth as if to say something, then thought better of it. The silence was suffocating. Daniel sat back slowly, his notes still untouched, his slides unseen. The meeting rolled on without him. Charts, budgets, and discussions blurred together, but Daniel barely heard a word. His idea, the one he had poured late nights and early mornings into, had been crushed in an instant, dismissed without consideration. As the team packed up at the end, Mr. Thompson clapped one of the other employees on the back and said, "Now that's the kind of thinking we need. Practical. Useful." Daniel gathered his papers quietly, his chest tight. He had come to the table with vision, with innovation, and walked away invisible. But deep inside, beneath the sting of dismissal, something else flickered to life, a determination that this would not be the end of his idea. That evening, Daniel sat at his kitchen table, the same folder of notes from the meeting lying unopened in front of him. The apartment was quiet except for the ticking of the clock on the wall. He ran a hand over his face, his thoughts replaying the scene again and again, his boss's dismissive laugh, the awkward silence of his coworkers, the way his idea had been brushed aside as if it meant nothing. His wife, Naomi, walked in carrying 2 mugs of tea. She set one down in front of him and studied his tired eyes. "Rough day?" she asked gently. Daniel sighed, staring into the steam rising from the cup. "I put everything I had into that proposal. Weeks of research. Late nights. I thought I had something that could really make a difference. And today..." He shook his head. "Thompson didn't even let me finish a sentence." He laughed. In front of everyone. Naomi sat across from him, her expression steady, her voice calm but firm. "Daniel, you can't measure the value of your ideas by the blindness of one man. Just because he didn't see it doesn't mean it's worthless." He looked at her, doubt clouding his face. "But if my own company won't even listen..." She cut him off, leaning forward. "Then show it to people who will. There are competitions, grants, platforms for innovators. Don't let him bury your work. Share it with the world." Her words sank deep. For a long moment, Daniel sat in silence, staring at the folder. The humiliation was still raw, but alongside it something else began to stir, defiance. He straightened in his chair, his voice quiet but resolute. "You were right. If they won't give me 5 minutes in that boardroom, I'll find a bigger stage. One where they have no choice but to listen." Naomi smiled, reaching across the table to squeeze his hand. "That's the man I married." Daniel opened the folder again, flipping through the pages of calculations, diagrams, and sketches. The sting of rejection hadn't vanished, but it was no longer in control. Now it was fuel. And for the first time since that meeting, Daniel felt a spark of hope, and the beginning of a much larger fight. The next morning, Daniel sat at his desk at home, the pale glow of his laptop screen lighting up his determined face. His folder of notes was spread out beside him, charts, sketches, and ideas that had been dismissed just days before. Now, they felt alive again. He scrolled through an announcement online, National Innovation Challenge, calling for proposals that can change the future. The competition promised funding, exposure, and the chance to present ideas to an international panel of judges. Daniel's pulse quickened. This was it. This was the stage Naomi had told him about. He spent the next several weeks refining his presentation. Nights blurred into early mornings as he tweaked slides, double-checked data, and rehearsed his pitch aloud in the mirror. Naomi often found him at 2 a.m, eyes heavy but burning with focus. "You should sleep," she whispered one night. "I will," he said, tapping his laptop. "After I make this perfect." Finally, the day of the competition arrived. The event hall was packed with inventors, entrepreneurs, and hopefuls from across the country. Judges sat in the front row, sharp-eyed and attentive. Cameras captured every word, every image projected on the screen. When his name was called, Daniel Robinson, Carter Tech Innovations, his palms grew damp. He stepped onto the stage, breathing deeply, and began his pitch. At first, the same doubt tried to creep in. What if they laugh? What if they cut me off like Thompson did? But as he clicked to his first slide, his voice found its rhythm. He explained his system redesign, breaking down how it could save millions of dollars and reduce waste. He spoke with clarity, passion, and conviction. By the time he finished, the room was silent, but not the suffocating silence of his office meeting. This was a silence of awe. Then, suddenly, applause filled the hall. The judges nodded, some even smiling. A few days later, the results were announced. Daniel had not only placed, but he had been chosen as a finalist to represent the country in the Global Innovation Award. Naomi hugged him tight when he told her, tears in her eyes. "I told you," she whispered. "The world will listen." Daniel smiled, holding the acceptance letter in his hands. His boss's dismissal echoed faintly in his memory, but it no longer hurt. Instead, it fueled him. "If he wouldn't give me 5 minutes, I'll take the whole world's attention." Back at the office, Daniel kept his focus sharp, quietly finishing his projects during the day and preparing for the international finals at night. He hadn't spoken a word about the competition to his coworkers. But secrets never stayed hidden for long. One Monday morning, the headline blared across the company intranet: "Local innovator selected as finalist for Global Innovation Award." And beneath it, Daniel's photo, standing at a podium, mid-presentation, eyes lit with passion. The whispers began immediately. "Isn't that Robinson from our division? He's going to represent the whole country? Wow! I had no idea." When Daniel walked into the office, conversation stopped. People stared. Some smiled with respect, others just looked stunned. But not Mr. Thompson. The manager stormed into Daniel's cubicle later that morning, the article clutched in his hand. His face was red, his voice sharp. "So this is what you've been wasting your time on?" Daniel stayed calm. "It's not a waste. This idea could change the industry." "The judges." "The judges?" Thompson scoffed, cutting him off. "You think some contest means anything? Real innovation happens here, in this office, under my supervision. Not in flashy competitions." Daniel held his gaze. "With all due respect, sir, I tried to present it here. You didn't want to listen." The manager's jaw tightened. He leaned closer, lowering his voice to a hiss. "Don't think a trophy is going to make you important here. You're still just an analyst. Don't forget your place." For a moment, Daniel felt the sting again, the same dismissal, the same belittling tone. But then he remembered the applause at the competition, the judges' nods, the letter inviting him to the global stage. He straightened his shoulders. "My place," he said firmly, "is wherever my ideas can make a difference. Even if that's bigger than this office." Thompson's face twisted, but he had no reply. He turned sharply and walked away, leaving Daniel at his desk, shaken, yes, but also stronger. Because this time, Daniel knew the truth. His idea was bigger than his boss's prejudice, bigger than his company's walls. And soon, the whole world would see it. The lights of Geneva glowed outside the tall windows of the International Conference Center. Inside, banners stretched across the hall: Global Innovation Award, celebrating the future of ideas. Delegates from dozens of countries filled the seats, cameras flashed, and a buzz of anticipation filled the air. Daniel stood backstage, his heart pounding. He adjusted his suit jacket, holding the clicker for his slides tightly in his hand. Naomi, who had flown with him, squeezed his arm. "You belong here," she whispered. When his name was called, Daniel Robinson, United States finalist, he stepped into the blinding lights. The stage stretched wide before him, judges seated in the front row, translators whispering into headsets, reporters with pens poised. For a brief moment, the memory of Thompson's mocking laugh tried to creep in. But it faded against the roar of applause that greeted him. Daniel began to speak. His voice was steady, his passion unmistakable. He explained the problem, broke down the solution, and unveiled his redesign with the precision of a scientist and the vision of a dreamer. His slides illuminated the screen with diagrams and data, but it was his conviction, his belief in the idea, that held the room captive. As he concluded, Daniel said, "This is more than an efficiency model. It's a way forward. A way to save resources, save money, and build smarter for the future. It's not just innovation, it's transformation." For a moment, silence filled the hall. Then, like a wave, the applause began, slow, then building into a thunderous ovation. People rose to their feet, cheering. Judges nodded, some even clapping along. Cameras flashed, capturing his image against the bright stage lights. Later that night, the panel of judges gathered on stage with envelopes in hand. The announcer's voice rang out, and the winner of the Global Innovation Award, with the highest score in the competition, is Daniel Robinson. The audience erupted. Confetti rained from above as Daniel was handed the Golden Award, his name etched into the plaque. He held it high, the lights glinting off the metal. And in that moment, the memory of every dismissal, every laugh, every doubt vanished. He wasn't just heard. He was celebrated by the world. The next morning, Daniel's face was everywhere. His photo, smiling, holding the Golden Award aloft, ran on the front page of international business journals, tech blogs, and news sites around the globe. Headlines read, "American Innovator Wins Global Award." Daniel Robinson's breakthrough could redefine the industry. From dismissed idea to world stage triumph. Back at the office, the news spread like wildfire. Employees gathered around monitors in the break room, watching video clips of Daniel's speech and his standing ovation. Some looked amazed, others proud, whispering things like, "I can't believe Thompson shut him down. He works here? That's our guy? He should be running this place, not stuck behind a desk." When Mr. Thompson walked in, the chatter fell silent. On the screen above them, Daniel's image filled the broadcast, confident, brilliant, applauded by the world. The manager's jaw clenched. He retreated to his office, slamming the door. But even there, he couldn't escape. His inbox was flooded with emails from executives higher up in the company. "Why didn't we know about this idea? This could have been our innovation. Explain how your team overlooked this." Thompson sat frozen, the weight of his mistake crushing him. He remembered the smirk, the wave of his hand, the dismissive laugh as he'd cut Daniel off. Now that same idea, the one he had ignored, was being hailed as revolutionary by the entire world. Meanwhile, Daniel's phone buzzed nonstop with congratulations. Invitations from major companies, speaking requests, offers for partnerships. He sat in a quiet cafe with Naomi, scrolling through the flood of messages. She reached over and whispered with a smile, "See? They tried to ignore you. But the world had no choice but to listen." Daniel smiled softly, the Golden Award resting on the table beside him. For the first time, he realized his idea wasn't just a proposal anymore. It was a movement, one that no manager's prejudice could ever silence. A week later, Daniel walked back into the office, not with a folder of ignored notes this time, but with the Global Innovation Award gleaming in his hand. His colleagues gathered near the entrance, clapping and cheering as he entered. For the first time, they weren't just coworkers. They were admirers. "Congratulations, Daniel. You've put us on the map. We're proud of you." Their voices filled the lobby. Daniel smiled, nodding humbly, but his eyes were searching for one face, the man who had once silenced him. Mr. Thompson stood stiffly by the glass conference room, his expression forced into a tight smile. He stepped forward, his voice low, awkward. "Well, Robinson. Congratulations. I suppose I underestimated you." Daniel looked at him calmly, his tone even but firm. "You didn't underestimate me, sir. You ignored me. There's a difference." The manager's face flushed, but Daniel didn't linger. Instead, he turned toward the gathered employees, lifting the award slightly so they could all see it. "I want you all to remember something," he said, his voice carrying through the room. "An idea doesn't lose its value just because one person refuses to hear it. If you believe in your vision, fight for it. Even if the door closes, there's always another way in." Applause erupted again, louder this time. Some employees looked at him with admiration, others with inspiration, as though seeing their own unspoken ideas in a new light. Daniel placed the award on the center of the conference table, the same table where his proposal had once been laughed off, and said simply, "This belongs to all of us who refuse to be silenced." As he walked out, Naomi waiting proudly in the lobby, Daniel felt the full circle of his journey. He had gone from invisible to unstoppable. From dismissed to celebrated. And as the sun poured through the glass walls, his reflection shimmered against the golden award, a reminder that no laugh, no dismissal, no prejudice could bury the brilliance of a true idea.